All right, welcome to Becky Live. I am Becky Andree, and I am the CEO of Vertical Leadership Consulting. And my teenage son likes to tell people, my mom trains your brain. And that really is Vertical Leadership Consulting's primary focus, is to develop a leader's brain to thrive in a complex world, what we like to call complexity of thinking. Which, if you're interested in that topic, we have a previous YouTube video that you can go take a look at. But today we're going to be talking about the secondary focus of vertical leadership consulting, which is high quality connections within organizations. And we're going to talk about that in a number of different ways. We're going to talk about what high quality connections actually are, kind of what the definition is and what it is. And then we're also going to be talking about how they feel, what we experience, so that we can start to begin to recognize high quality connections, but also how to think about creating them. We're going to talk about how they happen, so some of those features or skills or capacities that people have. And then I'm going to give you a few ideas on how to develop, just based on some things that I've been experimenting with and trying out. So I hope that sounds like a good journey to go on today. And so we will get started with a definition of high quality connections. So I want to just situate it in the research. Several decades ago, within the psychology research academic strain, there emerged positive psychology to say, what happens if we looked at psychology through the lens of thriving or flourishing? And so we saw kind of that really blossom out and become kind of a bit of a fad, but really trendy in the late 90s, early 2000s. And within that positive psychology emerged another scholarship, which was positive organizational scholarship, saying, let's look at flourishing and thriving from a business context. And out of that came high quality connections. And there's low quality connections and there's high quality connections. So I want you to think about it as kind of a continuum and with a lot in between. Low quality connections are those things that leave you feeling drained. I like to describe it as it's like a vampire swooped in and drained all your energy. And on the other end of the spectrum are what we call high quality connections, which are things that leave us feeling really energized, excited. It almost feels life-giving. And when you experience a high quality connection, it really does feel somewhat magical. And the research in high quality connections really originated with Dr. Jane Dutton, who conceptualized this concept with Dr. Quinn. And then subsequently within the field, Dr. Heafy, Dr. Stevens, and Dr. Carmelli have done a significant amount of research to advance the scholarship and understanding of high quality connections. And one of the questions they asked was, how do people report feeling when they experience this high quality connection, so that they could know how it felt? And it really came up with three different things that people reported feeling. One was a sense of vitality. And I talked about this kind of a little bit earlier about feeling energized. So there's this sense of the connection gives us energy and gives us life. And we look to prolong or even repeat that circumstance. So we might get that experience from our barista at a coffee shop, and it might draw us in to go get a coffee every day, because we just, every time we connect with this person, it just leaves us feeling alive. We view the event as positive, and we expect positive events will occur in the future with that person. And we're willing to put in effort and oftentimes invest in activities in being around that person, because we just get this sense of vitality. The second aspect that they report is a sense of positive regard, where they feel known. You might even say loved, or at least respected and cared for in the connection. And we feel like that person actually likes us. And we will try to develop a meaningful relationship with one another. And we also feel understood when there's positive regard. And then the last one is a sense of mutuality, where we're kind of committed to one another, maybe just in that initial connection, or if it's ongoing, we might be committed to one another at work. We do things for one another. We can bring up problems or tough issues. We feel like our unique skills and talents are being valued and utilized. So it's quite this wonderful aspect of high quality connections to have this energy, this sense of feeling respected and cared for, and the sense that we're in it together. All right. And again, these can be momentary. They can happen, in 30 to 45 seconds. It can also happen ongoing. There might be people in your life that are coming to mind for you right now, where you have connections with them, where you have these three feelings when you're with them. And so whenever I'm engaging with someone, especially my coaching clients, I try to keep these three elements in mind. How am I doing at creating an experience of vitality, feeling cared for, and that there's a sense of mutuality, especially when my clients are facing challenging or transformational times. That's when this really becomes very critical to keep them energized and keep moving forward through some difficult times. And I wanted to kind of share with you what it looks like. So this is a high quality connection I had with Hannah over text. And she's a DoorDash driver, and I'm just going to read it through to you. So, hi, it's Hannah, your DoorDash driver. I'm on the way with the order now. See you soon. I said, perfect. It's for my friend to help brighten their day, make the weekend easier. So if she doesn't answer right away, please be persistent. Because basically, I wanted to let her in on the secret. She doesn't know it's coming. And Hannah says, how sweet, that sounds good. I'll send a picture to you as well as I'm dropping it off. And then she asks, is it from Becky then or for Becky? And I said, from Becky, and told her my friend's name. Perfect. She sends a picture of the house with her hand holding the food bags and says, I just delivered. She was surprised and grateful. Have an amazing weekend. Hope she's all right. And then Hannah goes on, thank you for being so generous. Take care. And I shared a little bit, my friend will be okay, just needs a little extra love and care right now. Thanks for helping since I'm like thousands of miles away. And you'll see Hannah shares with me that she's from the Midwest. I'm from Wisconsin. And I say, I'm from Wisconsin and live in Michigan. Where from Wisconsin? She tells me where. We went on and did a little bit of back and forth with that. And she said, I can feel your positive and loving energy from here. I truly mean that. Your friend is lucky to have you. Me, I'm sending a hug emoji. She says, take care. The chat will end soon, with a little crying emoji. And I really enjoyed working with you. And I send her another hug. Now, when this exchange happened, I didn't go in expecting that I was going to have a high quality connection. And I want you just to kind of take a look at this text exchange. And there is a sense of energy. I mean, I kind of let her in on this secret that, or not a secret, but I let her in and let her know a little bit more about why she was delivering food, and that my friend needed a little love and care right now. We found some mutuality, right? That we were both from the Midwest. I could tell that she didn't want it to end, because she's sending a little cry emoji. And again, it wasn't like I artificially tried to manufacture this. It just kind of happened, and I walked away feeling very energized because I couldn't be somewhere. I couldn't get to my friend. And so it felt good that thousands of miles away, I could engage with a perfect stranger who could help me provide some support for my friend, and that she could give kind of that loving energy, even though I couldn't be there. And I think, Hannah probably appreciated getting some information about how meaningful her job actually is. And I do think even in the service industry, one of the biggest mistakes I think that happened, or the thing, really a trauma or a tragedy, is when we came up with this phrase, the customer is always right. And it took away the relationship. And I think the one thing that I always appreciate as I'm engaging with people in the service industry is always reminding myself that this is a relationship. It's also my responsibility as the person on the receiving end of the service to make sure that I'm having a sense of mutuality. I'm having positive regard. I'm looking at creating energy for that person rather than draining energy. And it can be as simple as when I sit down in a restaurant and I ask the waitress or waiter what their name is, and then I refer to them as their name. I might share my name with them. And so we can make these kind of connections so we can create these feelings. I want to talk about how they happen. So within the high quality connections research, which are also referred to as HQCs, the research took a look at what is present, what are these individuals capable of, either individually or just because of the moment. And so these are kind of structural components. And one of the interesting things that they found is that there was a higher emotional carrying capacity, which is the capability to express more emotion, both positive and negative. Now, again, this can be in an ongoing connection that we have with somebody, but it also can be momentary, all right? Even just, looking at the exchange I had with Hannah, that wasn't all rainbows. There were some difficult things going on, all right? And so being able to express that, or, we might be racked with grief in an unexpected moment and only be around strangers who are able to step in and provide this deep connection with us that gives us energy and feeling cared for. And so it doesn't have to always be that we know the person, and it can be just momentary that this emotional carrying capacity is there, but it definitely is one of those elements. The other element is a word you probably haven't heard, which is tensility, which is basically the definition of resiliency for a connection or for a relationship, all right? And so there was this interesting aspect that happened where the connection is able to bend and withstand strain and to function in a variety of circumstances. Again, not always rainbows, sometimes storm clouds, sometimes hurricanes, sometimes tsunamis were happening. And just this ability to stay connected, even when there were these forces that maybe wouldn't bring us together. There was still this ability to kind of hold the space and stay connected. And then the other aspect is connectivity, which there's this level of openness to new ideas and being open to being influenced. And so based on what I do in complexity of thinking, I was really interested to take a look at to say, what happens at different thinking levels? Like, do these things show up differently? And so that's where my PhD research is around. And if you were on earlier on in the call, I was sharing that, trying to write up my findings right now. So I'm going to talk about them a little bit, but first I'm going to ground us in kind of this newer part of HQC research, which focuses on mechanisms. And these are supposed to be levers that organizations can focus on developing. Now, it is very new, it's still emerging, and there's still a lot of research to go around this. So, we kind of want to hold this a little bit lightly and play with it a little bit, but these are also good places to focus in on. And they focused on 3 different mechanisms: cognitive, emotional, and behavioral. And my research is really focused on the cognitive mechanism, so I'm going to do that last. We're going to start with behavioral. What we do and how we do it at work is important for changing possibilities for and a means of connecting. And they broke it down into possibly 3 different pathways, which is respectful engagement, how we show esteem, dignity, and care for another person. So when we think about some of those experiences that people have of feeling vitality, positive regard, mutuality, those feelings can be created with respectful engagement. Task enabling, having interpersonal actions that help someone compete or perform a task. Again, that sense of feeling like my skills and talents are being used, having respect and care for me. Having play, a direct expression of human community, enabling learning and risk-taking. And oftentimes we don't do enough playing at work. We kind of think of play as the sandbox or, what we did in kindergarten. But when you go back and look at how children learn, they're learning through play. And somewhere along the way, we've decided that we just learn from reading a book or listening to an expert. But I work with my clients a lot to to kind of interject some ways to play. How can we be learning on the job? How can we take some risk taking to see what happens? And so there could be these beautiful things that open up in play that create connection. The emotional mechanisms focus on how emotions coordinate the mind, body, and feelings. They orient individuals towards others. So the emotional contagion is how a person or group unwittingly or explicitly influence the emotions and attitudes of others. So if I come in with a happy attitude, you're going to pick up on my happiness vibes. If I come in really depressed, you're going to pick up on my depression vibes. And so in fact, I heard someone say that emotions are more contagious than COVID. We just show up and unconsciously we pick up these emotions. So how we show up matters. And then empathy, when we experience another's emotions, acknowledging the fact and the feeling of what another person is experiencing. And on the cognitive side, these cognitions can predispose people to be more or less open to connecting with others at work. And this is where my research is. And it's what I'm finding is true, that actually there's a developmental aspect to high quality connections. And I've been looking at perspective taking and expanding it beyond perspective taking, looking at perspective taking, perspective seeking, and perspective coordination. And what I'm finding is that, yes, at different thinking developmental levels, the perspective taking changes, and it is much more nuanced and elaborate the higher the thinking levels. And I'm digging in right now to kind of look at what is the impact to tensility? What is the impact to mutuality, to connectivity? And it ends up there are some things that are impacted by that. So I'm really looking forward to having my research done and sharing with that with you. But in the meantime, I've been kind of playing around a little bit on my own with how do I work with clients to develop? What am I noticing when I'm in organizations or working with my coaching clients? What am I noticing about their ability to both experience high quality connections and to create high quality connections? And one of the things that I found is that if someone is in survival mode, they're just trying to get by, whether it's from the work environment, whether it's from personal life, that it was really hard both to experience a high quality connection as well as to create one for people. And so when I kind of look at this, I look at kind of starting with a quiet ego, mind, and body. And if you've read Ed Hess's book, Hyperlearning, you're probably familiar with this concept. And I really think this is foundational. So you don't have to be perfect at it, but if you're experiencing, for instance, ongoing physical pain in your body, it's really hard to be focused on anything other than that pain. If you're in survival mode and just kind of focused on yourself, it's really hard to build mutuality or have positive regard for others because you're not feeling that for yourself. And so I kind of look to stabilize, even within cultures or organizations, what's going on, where is there really loud noises going on, either with ego, mind, or body. And I do that in 3 different ways. I look at designing the work. Are there processes or ways of engagement that are happening that are getting in the way of a quiet ego, mind, and body? I look at bringing in some play, some learning agility to kind of take some of the heaviness away and to create some positive experiences. And then I also look at building awareness, both for the individual, but also the collective of what's going on for me. Where is my ego getting in the way? Where is my mind or body maybe not operating at optimal conditions, and how do we get there? All right. So that's usually where I start. I do an assessment of what's going on with the person and the environment and what needs to be kind of, I think about it as stabilizing or activated in order to create more high quality connections. And then I look at the second part, which is really introducing some dynamic skills. And dynamic skills are things that evolve and change as you move through your different ways of being and ways of knowing. And so these shift and change as you shift and change into who you're becoming. But I look at opportunities within the organization to look at, how do I develop perspective capacity? How do I help people be more collaborative? How do I look at building emotional capacity? You know, what are some of the things that are avoided in the organization, and how might we activate that so that there's kind of a broader range of emotions that can be experienced? And then most importantly, I look at contextual thinking. How are they contextualizing the situation? What can they see? What's in view? What might be possible? And the dynamic skills, I try to be really, really practical of how does it show up at work? How does it show up for that leader? So that, I don't stay in the theory because they don't really care about the theory. They want to get results. So that's a little bit about high quality connections. I hope by now you're just buzzing in your mind with all of the people that you've experienced high quality connections with. And maybe you're having a deep appreciation right now for all of those opportunities you've had. And I hope that you are leaning into being interested in developing more high quality connections in the future. Just want to share with you some upcoming events that I have going on. So I'm speaking at the Leadership Circle Profile Latin America Conference later in October. Oscar is on the call with us. He's part of EQ Labs, and I've been invited to talk with EQ Labs on November 2nd and 4th. I think I'm talking about advancing leaders' thinking capabilities to thrive in a complex world, but that might shift and change. But I think that's the topic right now. On November 11th, I've been invited to speak at the Michigan Lean Consortium to talk about staffing problems and lean solutions. And on November 12th, my Becky Live will be about tension. What's the good, the bad, and the ugly about tension in the workplace. And then on December 10th, our Becky Live is going to be about learning, the critical element to the future of work. Let's see, I want to thank you for being here today or watching the video. If you want to connect with me, here's the information on the screen. The best way is to follow me on LinkedIn. It's where I post upcoming events, as well as give kind of my latest thinking around various different things. So I want to thank you for being here today. I'm going to stop sharing and stop recording.